Well, hi guys, and welcome back. It's been a long while, far too long really. For those of you that follow this channel, you'll know that I've been quite ill for a while, and I'm still not fully recovered, mostly from the treatment that I received. And I've also been away quite a bit in Ukraine, helping out there. But I'm back today, and we've got a couple of videos lined up. Hopefully they'll go okay. At some point through the day, you're probably going to hear Mitch helping me out from time to time. I do struggle a little bit with certain bits of communication, but I'll do my best to produce a video at least equal to the terrible quality that we used to do. I've had a few people say that I waffle on a bit too much and the video's too long, so to cut it down a little bit, all of the warnings that I normally give at the beginning and end of the video are now going to be a message, a printed message at the beginning and end of the video. I really would appreciate it if you would take the time to read the text, because it will explain some of the things that people often mention. Now, the first video today is going to be replacing the rubber gator on the steering rack on your car. It's quite a common fault. I've got a steering rack in front of us here. I believe this is off the left-hand drive model, and you'll see this one has split quite badly. It's a very, very common problem now on these cars, and it's a very cheap and easy fix for you to do at home. It is not a complicated job, very basic tools required, and you can save an awful lot of money doing this yourself. So before we get started, as usual, a quick look at the tools you're likely to need. At some point when we do the job, we might add additional tools, because I can't remember everything we need for every possible job, even though I do my best. So going through them, this is just a WD-40, but you can use any similar type of liquid to free up any rusted bolts. You're going to need a 22mm spanner, and again this size might change depending on whether you've got original parts on your car or whether they've been replaced at some point. You're going to need a ball joint puller. This is a relatively cheap item now. You can get them from any auto parts store for not more than a few pounds. You're going to need a 19mm socket piece to go on a wrench, along with a 17mm socket piece. A pair of pliers might come in handy, a pair of long nose pliers maybe, and a pair of cutters. All of those may or may not be useful during the job. A small chisel, an old one if you've got it. It's not going to be treated very nicely. If you've got a really old one or a really cheap one you can pick up from one of these pound stores or something, that might come in useful. A hammer, magical tool, you always need one of these. A couple of pick tools might come in handy, we'll see how the job goes. And a pair of mole grips. So that's pretty much all the tools you're going to need. It's not a complicated job. You're going to need your replacement gator. These again are quite cheap. Look around very carefully for what you buy. If there is a genuine part still available, I'd recommend getting it. If not, take your old one down to the auto parts store and try and get them to match something as close to the original as possible. I've seen some of these that look absolutely dreadful on the car, really hard plastics, and they don't quite fit. You have to sort of make them fit. So try and get something as close to original as possible. And depending on which brand you get, it's going to come with all different types of methods to fit it onto the steering rack. It's quite rare to use the original types of fitting clips, because they can be quite difficult to fit as an aftermarket part. So that's I think covering everything we need to look at. By the way, I took this steering rack off another car just so you can get an idea of where everything is on the steering rack, because once it's on the car it's very, very difficult to see certain locations. And while we're filming under the car, I'm going to be pointing to areas that I think are not going to come up on the film because they're in such a tight spot. So I'll from time to time come out, reference on this steering rack what we're actually going to do on the car itself. So I think we're ready. Let's get on with the job. Okay, so moving on to the car, I've tried to save a little bit of time by removing the wheel first. That's a job you should all know how to do anyway. I've also taken a little bit of time this morning just to spray a little bit of penetrating fluid onto some of the nuts that we're going to need to undo, just so they're not too frozen up and we end up spending a lot of time on film trying to free up nuts and bolts that have seized. So with that said, we're now ready to get on with the job. A quick description of where we're looking here. So the end of the steering rack comes out here. It's this arm here. The part we're looking to replace is this rubber gator here. And to get that to slide off the end, we're going to need to release the end of the steering arm from the wheel hub. Not a difficult job at all. We'll free up a couple of bits first and try and do it in just the right order. So first of all, we've got a split pin here that goes through this nut to stop it coming undone accidentally. To loosen that out, long nose pliers. I'm going to have to work at an angle here so you can film at the same time. Sometimes these things rust in. I'm hoping that this one is free enough, because they can be a real pain sometimes to get out. It looks like this has been replaced at some time, so it's fairly free. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to grab a hammer and see if we can tap that out. Let's go.
I want to bend it down a little more. Still quite high.
Now sometimes I wish I could do these films on nice new cars like so many other people do, where everything comes apart nice and easy. But of course that would be unfair on you, because when you go to do it on your car, you're going to wonder why nothing comes out the same. And of course you learn a few techniques on how to get these things apart. So that's a split pin out. Next thing we're going to loosen off before we try taking this apart too much is this nut here. Now all we've got to do is loosen it, because this is a locking nut that stops this ball joint swinging round, and they're normally done up really, really tight. That one wasn't. So once you've loosened it off, I'm then going to tighten it back up. I only wanted to loosen it first of all, just so it's ready to go when we are ready to take off the ball joint.
Oh, hold on. This rod was turning with the nut, so have you not loosened it from this end?
Yeah, it loosened from the ball joint, which is what I wanted. I'll just try it one more time. It's only so it's unlocked from the ball joint, you see?
Okay. Yep.
And then I'll tighten it back up. Now by putting a marking tape on here, you can use a pen or whatever you want just to mark where that nut is. And then that means we can put it all back together without having to get the tracking redone. At least that's the theory. So that marks our exact point where we've got to take the nut back to.
About about 1, maybe 2 mil off the nut.
Am I? Oh.
Sorry, I'm in your way now.
That's okay. I'll do my best. As long as you know what you've got to do. It's not helped because I've still got some oil on there, which is preventing the tape sticking too well. And I've got oil on my fingers as well. Okay, next thing. Just give me 1 second. I brought one here. So on the end of the rubber gator here, we've got one of these clips. And to open the clips, you've just got to pinch the pins together. when you've pinched them together, it will slide off. So I only tell you that in advance so you know what I'm going to do in that tight space. Now sometimes a pair of long nose pliers works, sometimes a pair of regular pliers. Ah, that's good, that comes straight off, nice and easy. And then there's one more thing I'm going to do just to free things up a little bit before we start taking it apart. And that's get yourself a pick tool, just slide it under the rubber just to loosen the rubber off. And what you can also do, and I often do, is just spray some penetrating oil in there. And it's just going to help that rubber sleeve pass over the metal arm. Now, if your arm is particularly rusty, you're going to need to clean some of that rust off, because when you put the new gator on, all the rust is going to slide up under the gator and end up in the area that should be dust free. So now that's loose, and hopefully, yeah, we're able to slide that down. But it's still fixed at the other end. And I'm going to now go back to the steering rack to show you what we need to do to get the other end off, because filming in there is going to be nearly impossible. Okay, so we've just released this clip here on the gator. On the other end of the gator, we've got this metal clip here. This is the original factory one, and it's extremely rare to get this type of clip with a replacement gator because they're just so difficult to fit in the location that this is. So to open this, we've got a pair of like butterfly wings that fold around. And to get those butterfly wings, I've used a chisel because it's nice and sharp and easy to get in there. And this looks really easy when it's on the bench. But when it's on the car, it's much harder to get to. With the butterfly wings open, we can then press this clip down, and this would then loosen off that clip. And once the clip's loosened off, we can then pull this off. So now we'll do that on the car. So when we're under the car, locating the steering rack from underneath is actually quite complicated if you don't know where you're looking for. So it's actually right here, and we've got a very small amount of space to work. And you can see now why I needed to show you off the car what we're going to do next. That pair of butterfly wings is right up in there. I don't even know if you can get that on film. And I can only just about get into there. There is zero chance, I should think, of you being able to replace that with the original part, which is why I should think why they don't supply the same part to go back on. There we go. So open that up. That's it, that's come loose. There, we're off. Okay, now we're back on the outside again. With the gator now fully released, you'll see we can pull it all the way down the shaft ready to come off. But we can't get it off because the ball joint's still on the end. So next job is to release the ball joint. First of all, we'll loosen this nut. Well, actually, we can remove the nut. I believe that was 17 mil. Yep. So we'll get a wrench on there. Now this car's been fairly well looked after, and it's certainly had some maintenance over the years. And I shouldn't really have said that because it's all going to go wrong now, isn't it? Yes, it is. The problem I've got now is the ball joint is spinning with the nut. It's not coming free. I'm trying to push up on it to lock the ball in, but that's not working. So we'll see if we can tighten that up first. No, we can't tighten it up either. Okay, I'm going to have to pinch this together so it tightens inside the body here, and then the nut can be undone. So just give me a second to get another tool. Right, normally people like to keep this sort of thing off the camera because they want every single job to go perfectly. But Mitch and I have discussed this right from the very start, and we think no matter how bad the mistakes are, it's important for you to see the mistakes so you can learn from them. So I thought what was happening is this bolt here goes down to a ball in the middle, and I thought the whole thing was spinning when I was trying to undo the nut. It turns out what's actually happened is the nut is cross-threaded. Whoever's put it on had cross-threaded the nut, doing it up too tight. And now we've got to try and get that off. You can see I can turn the nut with my fingers.
Good. Oh, there you go.
But it's not undoing. Now I put this ball joint puller on here in the reverse direction to try and hold the ball joint in tight. But it turns out I didn't need it because that isn't the problem. So now I've got to try and find a way of releasing this cross-threaded nut off the end. And I'm not too sure how I'm going to do that at this point, because there's nothing wrong with this ball joint. I don't want to waste it by grinding the whole thing off. I could use a nut splitter, or I'm now going to try another technique. First of all, I just want to undo this. If I take this back off so we've got some space to work. So what have we got? I'm going to try, I think, some mole grips just on the top of the bolt there. To see if I can push down on the bolt hard enough for the nut to start getting some grip on the thread. This may not work, it's just an idea. But I'm also going to need a spanner, aren't I? Because I can't get the wrench on the end. Let me go and grab a spanner. It looks like that's not helping either. Right, what's next?
What if you try to force the ball joint down from this, so that creates a pressure forcing the nut onto the thread of the...
We can give that a try. So we'll pop this on here.
Because sure, I'm thinking the pressure forcing against it might be enough to keep it still from spinning at the same time.
Get this damn thing up.
Or maybe not. It'll be fiddly.
It certainly will. No, I don't think that's making any difference. But I'm not sure if the ball joint's out either. So after 15 minutes of struggling, we finally got this nut off. And it looks like it's well and truly cross-threaded. So it's cross-threaded both on the ball joint and on the nut. So what we're going to do is put on a replacement ball joint when I get this one out. So now we've got to drop the arm. And for that, we use a piece of equipment that you see me using a few minutes ago. Now, some people like to use these. They're much cheaper. You slide that in there and bash the hell out of it, and then that'll drop the ball joint. Problem with these is it automatically damages this rubber seal here. So unless you're thinking of replacing the ball joint as well, I wouldn't waste your time with these. Like I said, this is a nice cheap tool you can buy now. You slot that in there, and I'm hoping this one doesn't drop automatically because I have been bashing it about a bit. So you slide that in there and you tighten that down onto the top of the ball joint. Grab yourself a wrench or a spanner, and when you do this up, it'll pop that ball joint out just like that. Nice and simple, no damage, reusable ball joint. You're ready to go. So with that down and out, we can now undo this. Gonna be one of those days. We'll have a set of mole grips in and we'll try this. Okay, there we go. I was going to say, these aren't normally too tight. They normally come off quite easily. Once you've released that nut, it is. And now we take off the nut as well. Okay, now we've got the clip that was taken off the end. And now we're ready to slide that sleeve off. Now I'm hoping this tape doesn't move. Like I said, it was a bit oily underneath. But with any luck, this will slide over the top. Ah, excellent. So that's the first part. You can see where it's all ripped. That's no good. Then we've got the second part in there. Yeah, that's definitely seen better days. In fact, I can't imagine how long ago that went. That's been torn for some time. Okay, now just before I put the new one on, you'll see right up the end of the arm has got a ball in there that moves around. Lovely little joint. And you can see most of the grease has leaked out. So I'm just going to pack some more grease in there before we put the cover back on. And with these cars getting so old now, they're in desperate need of maintenance all the time. So that'll just give it a slightly extra longer life. Okay, now we're ready to put the new sleeve on, which you can see is not a new sleeve. I didn't have one to hand today, so I just raided one off an old steering rack that I had here.
That's going to make you tape.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So we push that all the way up to the end. And now we'll go back under and slot that over the steering rack. Some lights on. Ouch! Right up under there. Now this is a bit tight to get to, but hopefully yeah, it's not going to be easy. There's just no way of getting your hands in there properly. to work it on. I would like to get the top bit on first, but to get the top bit on first you have to lift the arm up, and if you lift the arm up you can't get your hand in there. But it will go on, it's just a little bit of working around. Worst thing is when you think you've got it on and then it pops off again.
So how will you know if you've got it on properly?
Because it won't pop off again. Yeah, like that. You just feel it just pop on nicely. Now, like I said, any replacement one that I've seen does not come with the same sort of clip. 99% of them now just come with a simple cable tie, which makes life a lot easier. You slide that up around the top and then back down the other side. Now, I don't think you can leave this cable tie out, because if you don't put it on, you're going to find that that boot will keep popping off. So make sure that's on there nice and tight. Then we'll grab some cutters.
Before you do,
yeah.
Do you want to try using some, like one of the pry pick tools? You might be able to pull that up a little bit more.
Pull what up?
Tighten up a bit more. You're pulling down.
Yeah.
But it might be sticking on the rubber boot. So if you pull down on the tail that you've got there, push the locking.
Push that up. Yeah.
You might be able to just get a little bit more.
No, it doesn't want to go anymore.
Down, it sort of brought the whole thing. That was all.
And of course I've got the worst pair of cutters that I've got in the house, which doesn't want to cut the damn cable tie. Oh, you've got to be joking. Okay, I've got to go and find my other cutters. Okay, so I got myself a better pair of cutters, which I should have had in the first place. Snipped off the end of that cable tie. Then we're back on the outside of the car to do the other end of the boot. Now, it's worth remembering or noting on this side, you'll see there's a little notch in the arm there. And that notch is where the rubber boot has to slide to. Come on, down you come. You feel it drop comfortably into there. And then we can put this back on. Oh, I'll have the old one, seeing as it's an old boot. Sounds like I'm talking about the wife, doesn't it? No, I didn't say that. Okay, we'll get that over the top there. Right, that's the boot back on. Now we've got to deal with the rest of it. First thing back on, here's the nut that we pulled off. And that's going to be screwed all the way up to the tape, so we don't need to adjust the tracking again. We know exactly where it needs to be.
Again, about 1 to 1.5 mil off the tape, I believe.
That feels about right. And we're going to put on a different ball joint. I've got a used one around here that's exactly the same size, so because they're the same size we don't need to make any adjustments. That one's going to screw on there. Now when you screw this on, try not to allow the arm to turn, because if the arm turns it's going to twist the rubber boot and it'll look really funny. So if you feel that as you tighten this up the arm starts to turn, just get a pair of mole grips on there to hold it while you screw this in. There we go. Bring that up through there, like so.
Might need that.
I will need that. Okay. And of course this nut will be a different size. Yep. You couldn't make this up, could you? That's going to be a 19. Have we got a 19 socket?
We do.
We do. There we go. Now we've got to line up the hole through the centre of the bolt with the nut. That looks about right. Then we get our split pin back through there. If you're like me and don't like spending money, just reuse the old one if it's not too rusted. Now everyone seems to have a different technique of how to do these up. Some fold them round like wings, some fold two pieces over the top, some go down on one and up on the other. It really makes no difference. It's only to stop the nut coming undone, so how you choose to do it's up to you. And one final thing, very, very important. This nut here is the locking nut. We just need to do that up nice and tight so nothing works loose. And there we go. Unless I've forgotten something, which Mitch is shaking his head, so hopefully that's all done. Boot replaced. It didn't all go to plan, but even with all the problems we had, that was less than 1 hour's work from start to finish, probably even less than half an hour's work from start to finish. So this is a job you can do at home. You can save an obscene amount of money, and your car's back on the road and running as it should be again. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to read the message at the end of the video or at the beginning of the video. To the patrons that have stuck with me for the last 2 years while I've been out of commission, I really appreciate your support. It's helped so much, and hopefully with this video now out the way and not going too bad, we'll be able to continue with some more videos very soon. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.